appointments.
Yeah, we'll go out on the
Or potentially appointments.
Montana.
I've never been to those, so many wanna do those.
Yeah.
Yellowstone. I've been to like 5 days.
This tonight.
4 hours. No, I didn't.
I think that clock's ahead a minute, according to my watch.
It was super cute. That's exactly what I wanted.
But yes.
Chip coming?
1 minute. Okay. Somebody's timer just went. Hey guys, I want to welcome everybody. It's 7 o'clock on Thursday, July 28th. Welcome you to the regular council meeting of the Spring Hill Governing Body. And with that, if everyone could stand, we'll do the invocation, and Mrs. Wendy North is going to do that for us as we don't have a pastor available.
Our Father in heaven, we're thankful for all the bounteous blessings that thou hast given to us. We thank thee for the rain to water the land, and we thank thee for all those that live in this great community of Spring Hill and those that work and serve here, and for all those that keep us safe. And we ask thee to bless us in this meeting this night, that we might have thy wisdom and direction, that we might be wise stewards of the taxpayers' dollars, and to be able to make good decisions for the community, that it might thrive and grow. And we ask for thy help and guidance in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Please remain standing for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Mrs. Roth?
Here?
Mr. Peel?
Here.
Mr. Young?
Here.
Mrs. North?
Here.
Mr. Van Houten? Mayor, we do have a quorum present.
Thank you. Next, we'll move on to the approval of the agenda, and I entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to a presentation, and Chief Henson, you have the floor, please.
Okay. I gotta get my little props ready to go, my stuff ready to go here. All right, if Officer Whiff and Officer Schaefer will come on up. You know, we don't do this often, but when we do, I think it's something that is very important to recognize our officers when they do something extraordinary. And so I want to share the story behind this award. On June 10th, shortly after 10:30 p.m., Officers Schaefer and Whiff responded to an accident near 191st and Lone Elm. Upon their arrival, they found a vehicle that had rolled several feet into a field. You couldn't see the vehicle from the roadway. The crash also caused down power lines that officers had to be cautious of when they entered the overgrown, approximately chest high, or as Lance described, as tall as he is, to contact the driver. They walked quite a ways to go back in there. When contacted, they asked if he was okay, asked if there was anybody else in the car, and the driver denied there was anybody else in the car. The driver required quite a bit of attention from the officers, but it didn't keep them from being alert to their surroundings. And during their initial reactions, officers heard a faint sound from a distance that sounded like a baby. Officers Whiff stayed with the driver while Officer Schaefer began to walk in the direction of the faint sound. This was not necessarily an easy task. There was nothing that, it's dark, that all they each had was their flashlights. There's no street lights where they were, anything of that nature. So approximately 30 feet from the vehicle, Officer Schaefer discovered an 18-month-old baby girl lying in the field. The baby girl suffered some cuts and bruises from being ejected. If it weren't for the officer's alertness and attention to the detail, the baby girl may not have been discovered so quickly and would not have received the medical care required. In recognition of their quick response and efforts to locate the baby girl. Officers Whiff and Schaefer are receiving a life-saving award along with a ribbon that they wear on their Class A uniform. So with that, I'll have Officer Schaefer come up, and then I'll have Kristen come up. And so I can't say the child's name, so but the name is on their plaque. So it says this, City of Spring Hill proudly presents this life-saving award to Brian Schaefer in recognition of your quick response and efforts that were instrumental in saving the life of the baby girl on June 10th, 2022, and it's signed myself and the mayor, Joe Berkey. Thank you. Congratulations. And not to discount Officer Whiff, I'll read it again because I don't want him to think he got the short end of the stick. The City of Spring Hill proudly presents this life-saving award to Officer Whiff in recognition for your quick response and efforts that were instrumental in saving the life of the small child on June 10th, 2022. And it's signed myself and Mayor Joe Berkey. So congratulations.
One more half step, sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
All right, thank you guys and congratulations. That's a big feat to say the least. Next, we'll move on to the citizen participation period. And just want to remind everybody that there is a speaker's protocol sheet attached if you got one walking in the door. And then also, this is the only point in the meeting where we do allow citizens to come up and say whatever you want to say up here. Just if you could state your name and your address. And then the remainder of the meeting will be city business after that. So if there is anything that any of the public would like to say, now would be your time to do it. And with that, the first person on the list would be Mr. Stephen Sly.
I do. Is there a way to put it on the
Yes,
screen?
and it's right over here. So if you see and then what do you want to hand
I'm usually
out?
not, thank you for your patience. I'm usually not presenting in front of the board
Usually.
here. But anyway, I do want to thank, so you just go like this.
Yes.
Okay, I got it.
You got that?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
so you don't want to
And I
hand
want to
it out.
check and first thank Mayor Berkey for, what you're doing. It's, it's great to have your service here in the city council as well. And also thank Mr. Burton for his wonderful service too. I think he gets attacked a lot, but he's been a valuable credit to the city. And Mr. Dunley, thank you for your service. So I want to make sure everybody has, I did email the city council and mayor a few things that I wanted to go over. I added a little bit, but not much, just more of an information basis. Oh, and I also want to thank the developer, Mr. Quinn. I think he's here tonight. He was actually a great help at the, at the planning commission. Let's see, does anybody not have a printout of what I emailed?
I have it digitally.
I think everybody does. I won't hand it out, then I'll just kind of go real quickly through some of the reasoning behind the thinking. Now, whenever you do a rezoning, you always want to first check, does it comply with the comprehensive plan? Is there anything that, doesn't comply with it? So that's what I started doing some research. I also apologize to everybody for not being prepared at the planning commission. I didn't have enough time. It was just given to us the day before, and I just didn't have enough time to do the research. So I do apologize for that to my neighbors. And I'm also representing a few of our neighbors here. There's a few of us that want to talk, have signed up, but I am representing a few neighbors. I wanted to make sure that's clear too. Let me make sure I go through this. Yeah, so the first thing I want to do is really just present a few facts and things that are right in the comprehensive plan. The first thing is Appendix A, and I'll try to make sure you can see it here. I'll try to hold it. Let's see, you can put it down, right? Can everybody see that in the back?
You can do that now. Are you talking about the?
Yeah, just where I got highlighted is really
Okay.
what I want to focus, and this is, yeah, I'm gonna, yeah, that's fine, that's fine. I was gonna read one for myself. I can better, there we go, actually, that's good. So, this is part of the planning principles and design guidelines that whenever you're doing a rezoning, it should be followed. Every city is different from other cities. So the comprehensive plan for Olathe is different, Gardner, Overland Park, Shawnee, everywhere. And so one of the things that I started researching was, these guiding principles. And so the first thing I highlighted was the future land use and development decisions include individual zoning changes, subdivision plans and plats, site planning, infill development, annexations, and capital improvement programming should be coordinated with the guiding principles and recommendations set forth by this section. So this is what kind of we're supposed to follow to make sure we're following these guidelines. And so I started researching this a bit more. Let me see here. So this is actually the neighborhood. The neighborhood shall have a sense of place and must be compact, pedestrian-friendly, and include a fine-grained mix of uses where no single use monopolizes a large area. So keep that all in mind. And I'm flipping to the next highlighted thing. This is one of the most important sections. Let's see here. Can you see that? I'll try to, okay. The following elements provide basic framework for future neighborhood developments in Spring Hill. These guidelines are intended to apply to the layout and design of new neighborhoods and infill or redevelopment projects. So new neighborhoods, this is supposed to apply to. Now, one of the things I circled here was, in the blue is kind of important. Basically, what is the definition of a new neighborhood? I thought, what is that definition? Well, a 12 to 1,500 linear radius from the neighborhood center should be used as the basis for determining the neighborhood size. And if you recall, the rezoning was for 2,645 feet by 1,322 feet. So it's pretty large. Now, if you put a radius around that, I think it would definitely constitute a definition of a neighborhood, probably include the high school with it. But definitely, I wouldn't consider the estates of Wolf Creek part of that neighborhood. I would consider the estates of Wolf Creek part of the elementary and middle school. So as you go down, a neighborhood should include well-integrated mix of housing stock and uses in a neighborhood. Single family, multifamily, civic and limited neighborhood-oriented retail sales. While not every residential development will be appropriate size to accommodate a range of residential uses, the following is an ideal mix of land uses for larger planned neighborhoods. Does that mean I have to stop?
Yeah.
I do have to only have 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
Oh, well, maybe you can at least, I didn't realize I had a 5-minute limit, since I was representing a few people.
If you're representing, I believe it's 10 minutes if you're. Right.
Okay,
5 minutes
5,
and then 3, so
Then 3.
it's 5 minutes.
it's just 5 if
Give
you're
another
representing.
5.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go ahead and go on then. So basically, thanks for allowing me a few more minutes. It says, single-family residence allocated to not less than 50% of any new neighborhood. And the new rezoning is for 80 acres, and I consider that a new neighborhood. I think you already would here. And that's actually, does not comply with the basically comprehensive plan as it's, Appendix A that we're supposed to follow. And then I went through a few things, but I think I'll just put this up here. And this is a good question for I think this is the rezoning, just a quick, it's RP3, which means multifamily up to 6 units on the entire 80 acres, so the entire neighborhood. I think an easy solution that we're actually recommending And I think it complies with Mr. Quinn's goals too, is just to, rezone that RP1 to the north half and RP3 to the southern half, and it really it's a win-win for everybody. It's a win for the city, it's a win for the developer, and it's also, I think he can I think he can keep the initial plat the same. So I think the neighborhood is actually for the initial plat. The problem we have is that initial plats can change. Over time, if you go into recession, things like that can change, the developer could change, the owner could change. And we're just trying to get it zoned appropriately the first time. And that's kind of the angst that we have. So we actually love the designs that Mr. Quinn put up and the initial plat. We're just trying to looking to be in compliance with the comprehensive plan, a win-win for everybody, and also build that development. Our concerns are if it sits there for years, things could change. It could just sit there and be RP3. And my house is literally 15 feet from the boundary here. That's only 5 yards. So and usually when you do multifamily, you want to have a minor arterial road like what was put up between Woodland Crossing, between that and the residential, the other neighborhoods. And so, or a major arterial road, like 199th is a major arterial road. And so that's why we're kind of recommending that. Now I'm gonna quickly go over, I've got like a couple, I'm not sure here. So basically, some questions, I think, or some main things to consider would be, the rezoning, if it, and this is a good question for Mr. Quinn, is if he's willing to actually rezone it the way the initial plat is. That would actually make a win-win for everybody, unless there's something that I'm missing, because I think some of the items that came up during the planning commission meeting was that he wanted the 5-foot setback to be able to do those homes. And I think RP1 defines that. There's a nice thing I handed to the city council that has that. The R1 does not. It has a 7-foot inside setback that I think he wanted more flexibility there. And also the square feet for R1, I think the minimum square feet is 9,000 feet and a 75-foot on the 75 by 120. And so that would be appropriate. So really what we're just looking for is, I think there's some options here. You could deny the rezoning and respectfully ask the developer, before you deny it, but respectfully ask the developer if he's willing to rezone that and pretty much keep the initial plat the same. RP1, where those homes are on the north and RP3 on the south, or you could send back to the planning commission, but we don't want to slow down the development. The worst thing that could happen is this is approved and then the initial plat was approved at the planning commission, but then it sits for years while Ridgeview is being developed. That's probably the worst thing the neighbors are thinking about, because they put conditions when they approved the initial plat approval that Ridgeview had to be developed. I know they don't hold the purse strings, as Mr. Burton would say, but they did put that condition on there. And so I think the quickest route and the easiest for the city would be, and the quickest for the developer would be to deny it, have him rezone it appropriately to match the initial plat. And I don't think he would have any issues getting it through, and that's the quickest route. And you could even call a special meeting in August with the planning commission and get that approved and get the initial plat approved, the final plat approved, you get the site plan approved. I think we could really move quickly for the developer because everyone likes that. I think just the concern is that putting multifamily right next to the Wolf Creek Estates. Thanks for giving me 10 minutes.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Troy Stubbs.
It's,
Stubbs, sorry.
it hasn't been right since kindergarten.
Can you state your name and address? For the
Troy
record?
Stebbs, 18519 West 194th Terrace, Spring Hill, Kansas. First off, I'd like to say thank you for letting us voice our concerns here and giving us a chance to speak. I'd also like to thank the developer for showing up at the planning meeting and answering a lot of our questions. I know that really eased a lot of our concerns. As Steve has outlined, our only concern right now is just making sure that we're very clear and intentional about our plans. So anytime there's, any kind of openness or vagueness, there's the chance that in the future, another developer buys this land, and as long as they meet that RP3 criteria and they submit a new plan, I believe the city has no recourse to say that, no, that's not allowed. And I would like to ask the city attorney, if possible, if he could clarify that. If we approve RP3 and the developer, this one or a different developer, comes in later and changes the plat plan, is there any legal standing that the city has to say, no, we don't approve that plan? Because if it conforms, it's my understanding that we can't deny it. So this is our chance to get it right, to say that RP1 for the north half and RP3 for the south half would be appropriate. As Steve indicated, I was actually the petitioner for the petition that went through. Unfortunately, there were some misunderstandings on it as far as how many people had to sign it in different zones, things like that. Talked to the city attorney and we came to an agreement on that, and I understand it now. But in talking to the different people while they were signing, nobody really had a concern with the overall plan. Our fear is, somebody sells this land and somebody comes in later and does something different, and there's really nothing we can do to stop it. And the only recourse we're gonna have is you guys promised us. You guys said this wouldn't happen. And so we're just asking, just deny it, but come right back and let's just zone it correctly and let's get everybody on the same page. And then I think everybody's gonna be happy with this. In closing, just let's be clear and intentional with our decisions. Let's match the comprehensive plan we have in place. And I think, again, we can have a win-win solution. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Rick Culver.
Rick Culver, 18418 West 193rd Terrace, Wolf Creek. I think Steve and Troy have pretty well covered my concerns. I was at the Planning Commission meeting. I raised the question, the argument kept coming up between making that north half R1 versus RP1. And I kept asking, well, why can't this be RP1? And I never did get an answer to that. But it seems like the appropriate zoning for this area. The plan is to make it single family. It should be an RP1 zoning, and I think that's what me and my neighbors would be concerned about. I think I should also say my sense at the Planning Commission meeting was that no one was opposed to this. I know often when citizens come and speak about they don't want rezoning, they don't want development stuff, there can tend to be, and sometimes is, an attitude that we just don't want change, we don't want growth, we want everything to stay the same as it always been. I do not believe that's the case in this situation. I think the surrounding neighbors would welcome a well-done, well-zoned development, but we just don't think RP3 is the right thing for at least the northern 40 acres of this development plan. And we would like to ask you to deny the requested rezoning from the recommendation of the Planning Commission, send it back, as Steve said, and let's get it done right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Mr. Kevin Hurden.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Thank you for your service. Thank you for your time. You
Yes,
ready?
sir.
I'm ready when you are.
Yeah.
All right. Kevin Herndon, 18517 West 194th Street. Everybody said what I was going to say, so I'm going to reiterate this. We love Mr. Quinn's design, his openness and coming to the meeting, answering all of our questions. He was straightforward, not hiding anything. We love that for what he's doing. Like everybody else has said, we just want this little simple change. We just entered a recession. GDP's down second term. Housing is going to be an issue. I noticed the cows are back on the farm. That means things aren't moving fast. There's things that we can do to make this right. I love this idea. This is beautiful. The drawings were great. We just want it done this way, just in case, he gets a great offer to sell out to somebody else because it's zoned RP3. Our concern is, this could change in a year, 2 years. We don't know what's going to happen. in the future. All we ask is you take a look at the numbers, you hear it in the news, you know, there's stuff happening right now, but let's do north side RP1, south side RP3, call a special meeting in August, and let's just get that done. Thank you for your service.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have Dr. Link Luttrell.
Good evening. Again, I'm Link Luttrell, and I am the incoming Superintendent of Schools for USD 230. My current address, which is temporary, is 15490 South Rogers Road in Olathe at the Kenwood Suites. Hopefully soon I will be able to move into and become a resident of Dayton Creek once our home is finished. But again, I am very excited, humbled, and honored to be the next leader at the helm of USD 230. I have spent my entire life on the east side over in Missouri. So this is my first foray into the state of Kansas, and I'm wanting to learn as much as I can about the culture and the climate of USD 230. And I'm trying to talk to as many people as I can and learn as much as I can before moving forward with any specific plans. But any successful organization cannot do it alone. It takes a partnership, and I just wanted to come tonight and just let the city know that USD 230 will always have an open door to listen and try to be a partner to make sure that we work together. Again, just like the speakers this evening, we want the same mission. We want the same goals. When you're in a growing environment like Spring Hill with the school district as well as the community, you've got to have those open lines of communication. You got to come to the table. You got to make sure that you strive, as the gentleman said, that you create win-win. Again, just know that I'm here. I'm always willing to listen. We have a great staff of individuals out at USD 230, and we will do whatever we can to keep the lines of communication open and have a very positive relationship in all endeavors. We may not always agree, but we can always be respectful, we can be civil, and again, we can strive for that win-win. Again, thank you. I just wanted to come and say hello, and just know the door is open. I've already had the opportunity to meet many of you, talk one-on-one, and I'm hoping that, again, those conversations will continue into the weeks and months ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Welcome to Spring Hill. All right, that is everyone we have on the list. Is there anyone else that would like to step up and say anything at this time? If not, we'll go ahead and close the citizen participation period and move on to the next item. Next, we'll move on to the consent agenda. And with that, I entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next, we'll move on to formal council action. And the first item on the agenda, after a multi-month search and many hours of interviews, I'm pleased to consider and announce my nomination for appointment for City Administrator, Mr. Lane Massey. So, Mr. Massey, if you'd like to step forward to the podium, and if you guys have any questions or comments, and after that, we'll entertain a motion to approve the appointment. And just a few things that I can say about him, and I'll give him an opportunity to introduce himself and say a few things. He's got many years' experience as a city manager, as a city administrator, and then also as an assistant city administrator. He's got a master's degree in public administration with a management specialization in local government. Also has a secondary bachelor's degree, and he, from what I have read and learned, got both of his degrees in Kansas. Unfortunately, not any of the schools that I support, but that's all right. We'll give him a pass on that one. And he just comes with a wealth of knowledge and experience. So with that, if you'd like to introduce yourself and say anything you'd like to say, and then if you guys have any questions.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lane Massey. I'm currently living in Emporia, Kansas, as the assistant city manager there. Very grateful and humbled to be considered for this position, and I'm really looking forward to working with the governing body, staff, and the community. From the outside, sometimes when you're on the inside, it's hard to see what you have, Being from the outside, this community has great potential. It's a great community. I've known several people that have lived here over the years, and I'm really looking forward to becoming a part of this community. So I have an open door policy. If the vote goes well this evening, the door will be open sometime in August when we get here, and I think after talking to several staff members, there's a lot to do in the first few weeks, so looking forward to it.
You guys have any real quick questions?
We did get the pleasure to chat a little bit, obviously, prior to this evening, so thank you for giving us that time. I'm interested to see how, the one thing that I caught from the conversation was you had almost opposite problems
We did.
in Emporia than you will have here as far as growth. It was the other way, so I'm interested to see how you do with that flipped and inverted. So that's going to be exciting to see all the things you learned this way, and those are still valuable skills, and I'm excited to see those implemented here. So
I don't have any questions, but you know, this has been my number one priority is filling this position since I started, you know, decided to run over a year ago, last year. I think tonight is a great accomplishment to get you into this spot. We did have a chance to speak with you earlier, and I'm excited to get you here and get you working. We have a wonderful community to live in and to enjoy. We have so many great things to talk about and be proud of. But we also have very high expectations, and I have high expectations for you and our community. We have a community that's very involved in what happens here at City Hall or the Civic Center. I'm just really, really excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you.
I'm just excited to have you. It was nice to meet you when we did, and I think you're going to do really well. It's exciting to have the new
Finance director.
the new superintendent and the new city administrator, and we have a new finance director. So I think it's going to be nice to have everybody coming in with new ideas and seeing what we can do.
I too want to echo that. It was nice to meet you a few weeks ago, and I appreciate the qualities that you bring to be the city administrator.
Thank you.
So welcome.
There are no further questions or comments. I entertain a motion.
I move to approve Mayor Berkey's appointment of Lane Massey as city administrator.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Welcome. Next item on the agenda has to do with the same thing, is consider employment agreement with city administrator and authorize execution of employment agreement. And Mrs. Jones, you have the floor.
All right, good evening, everybody. So, it may seem a little strange for me to come up here with a prepared agreement when we just appointed someone as city administrator, but it is customary to have an agreement for someone in this particular position to go over parameters such as pay, separation requirements, and different aspects of the agreement. So in the chance that Mr. Massey was approved as city administrator, we wanted to be prepared so that we could move forward in the process. And so you have submitted here is the employment agreement for the city administrator and the authorization to execute. And the mayor, myself, and the city attorney worked diligently to make sure that this agreement was a mutual benefit to the new city administrator as well as for the city itself. And so, like I said, it's been heavily reviewed by a city attorney and approved. And in terms of the budgetary impact, that has been discussed and allocated for the budget during the whole budgetary process and prior, because as mentioned before by Councilman Pill, we've had an interim city administrator since July of 2021. So it's been a very lengthy, ongoing process with everyone definitely engaged in moving this process forward. So the recommendation for staff at this time is to approve the employment agreement for the city administrator and authorize the staff to execute. Obviously, you have options to approve it, to deny it, or request more information and place it on the next agenda. But like I said, staff recommends that you approve it and allow execution. Any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
I just have a quick comment that I think the contract overall, that there's some good give and take on both sides. So I think when we've got a pretty good balance of that, that we have a good contract. So I can't say that I'm ecstatic about every single aspect of it, but I'm happy with the contract overall, and I'm good with it. So.
I want to echo Brian's point earlier. This was, when I took office, that was my number, was my number one priority was to hire a city administrator. So I'm been looking forward to this day for a long time, and I feel like we've got a real good candidate. And I think it's going to be a good thing for the city and a good thing for the community of Spring Hill.
I assume you need a motion.
Yep. If there are not any further questions or comments, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the employment agreement for the city administrator and authorize staff to execute.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the next item on the agenda is more of a technicality. It is consider the appointment of city treasurer. And that was just, we had already appointed our finance director, Ms. Rhonda Dunn, and we need to also appoint her technically as the city treasurer as well, so she can perform those actions as well. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions, and if there are not any questions, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve Mayor Berkey's appointment of Rhonda Dunn as city treasurer.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Next item on the agenda is consider the board appointment for the Parks Advisory Board. And Miss Jamie Flum, if you would step forward. Welcome. Miss Jamie has lived here in Spring Hill for 21 years and has just recently retired. And when I asked her why she wanted to be involved on the Parks Board, she just wanted to be able, she's lived here for many years and wanted to be able to start serving her community. And she's served in lots of other ways before, but she wanted to serve her community in this way and thought it'd be a great opportunity to get involved. And so I thought it was a great idea, and yeah. So if you want to introduce yourself, and if you have anything to say, if not, we'll go after that.
I'm Jamie Flum. I built my house over at the Village 21 years ago, and retired 2 years ago. And through some of the ladies at the River Walk that I attend every day, I found out there was a position available, and decided it was time to get involved in my community. So I liked what she had to say, and I'm interested in being a part of this committee.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you for getting involved.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? You could stay up here for just a little bit longer.
Okay.
Not to put you on the spot.
Oh, I have to swear in, that's right.
If not, and her term ends in 2024. She's filling a position that was vacated a while back, so her term would end in 2024, and then she would be up for reappointment after that if she so decided to serve longer. All right, with that, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve Mayor Berkey's appointment of Jamie Flum to the Park Advisory Board.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
And we'll go, if you want to go ahead and stay up here, we'll go ahead and administer your oth right here
Okay.
while you're here and get your picture.
Oh, yay.
And we'll move out of your way so you can have a better picture.
Which direction do I face? Okay.
I state your name.
I, Jamie Flum,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas
and the Constitution of the State of Kansas,
and faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of Parks Advisory Board member
of Parks Advisory Board member
for the City of Spring Hill, Kansas.
for the City of Spring Hill, Kansas.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah. We'll let them wrap up here real quick before we move on to the next item. All right.
So we can take a picture.
Sure. All right, next item on the agenda is to consider approval of appropriation order number 2022-07-28. Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor,
All right.
and welcome to your first official action.
First item is to spend some money. I believe each of you have a copy of the appropriation order that gives you, so that the public knows, not only the overall summary of the spending, but the detail by invoice level is attached to it as well. It's pretty straightforward with a total of appropriation of $578,844.46, and I'd entertain any questions if you have them.
I don't believe I have any questions. Any other questions or comments by anyone?
This is a pretty straightforward payables run and payroll run as well, so I didn't see anything out of the ordinary I felt need to be brought to your attention.
All right, with that, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the appropriation order number 2022-7-28.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, would you please take the roll?
Mrs. Roth?
Yes, with the exception that I abstain from any invoices pertaining to J&T Auto Service.
Mr. Peel?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Mrs. North?
Yes.
Mayor, the motion passes 400.
Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2022-R-14, and that's 2022 salaries of various city officers and employees of the city of Spring Hill, Kansas. And Mrs. Jones, you have the floor.
It's the shoes.
She's wearing the heels, yeah.
There you go. It's the small hills. All right, so, hello again.
Hello.
Yes, I'm here to talk about the salary resolution. So, as you know, that customarily every year in December, we go over the salary resolution. And that's generally the time when we update any of the ranges or the positions. But throughout the year, there's changes that need to be made to make sure that the resolution is able to support the strategic direction of the city, in which case we have to do an ad hoc review. And various discussions and meetings took place to examine the operations of the various departments within the city. And so this resolution change is focusing on community services to make sure that we are able to recognize any additional duties and responsibilities within that department, as well as support any succession planning efforts. So the changes to the resolution are to change our customer service representative title to a customer service representative 1, and then with that to include a newly created customer service representative 2 position, as well as to include a newly created deputy clerk / customer services supervisor position. And so again, that is relating to customer community services only, but it's making sure that we are able to address any strategic directions that are going to be done within that department. So the possible outcomes tonight are you to approve this resolution, to deny the resolution, or you can request more information and place it on the next agenda. I will just add that there isn't really any legal type of review that needs to be done when we're updating the salary resolution. There could be budgetary impacts, but with this particular change, inserting these new titles, I slotted them into the existing resolution that we had, and no changes have been made at this time for any of our employees, so there's no immediate impact to the budget. Any short-term changes that we're going to do going forward as it relates to these new titles, we'll be discussing that as we continue to progress through the budget process. So the recommendation at this time is for the governing body to approve the resolution to be effective as of August 6, 2022. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
Is it my understanding that maybe some of these titles were adjusted or renamed or organized to be more covering, like an umbrella of the skills or roles that are needed for that position?
Well, so for instance, with the customer service representative, we already have that position in the salary resolution. And so by changing that to a 1 and then adding a customer service 2 allows us to say, okay, this position has moved forward in its responsibilities and be able to adequately give effort and recognition to the employee that's doing more. So the customer service 2 is someone that would be more helping out with the municipal court activities versus just the front desk that you see out there.
It offers a path.
Right,
to
exactly,
progress.
a path of
Succession
progression,
plan.
path of progression. And the same is with the deputy clerk / community services supervisor. That was more of, again, that succession planning idea of ensuring that we have someone to move into that role in the off chance that we need to move into the director position, so.
Thank you.
And it's just the 3 spots that changed, and then we'll still look at the full sheet again in December.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2022 R-14, 2022 salaries of various city officers and employees of the city of Spring Hill, Kansas, to be effective as of August 6th, 2022.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is consider resolution number 2022-R-15, designated depositories, and Mrs. Dunn, you have the floor again. Pretty popular tonight.
Yes, I feel very popular. Let me adjust to the non-heel wearing people. I'm here tonight to ask you to approve resolution 22 R-15 for the to authorize the mayor to sign the depository agreements that would name me as finance director and an officer of the city, as well as a signatory for the account. This is basically so I can do the banking of the city. It's another formality that comes along with the new finance director. It has been reviewed by city attorney, Mr. Dunlay, and you have 3 options here. I hope you choose to approve it so we can do the banking as we need to, but you can deny it or you can ask me to do more work and bring it back to you. But I'm asking you to approve 2022 R-15, designating the depositories and directing and authorizing the mayor to sign the related documents.
Give the keys to the bank.
Any questions
That's
or
right.
comments? I feel like it's pretty straightforward, but I don't want to ever take away the chance if somebody wants to
Right.
ask a question or comment. If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2022 R-15, designating financial depositories of the city of Spring Hill and directing and authorizing mayor to execute relate documents.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Thank you. Next item is consider resolution number 2022-R-16, Rural Housing Incentive District, Wiswell Farms Project, and Mr. Ellsworth and Mr. Burton.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tyler Ellsworth, Tyler Ellsworth with the Kutek Rock Law Firm, the city's bond counsel. I wanted to provide just a few brief remarks this evening to give some background and some context for the resolution and the request before you tonight. So this resolution relates to a proposed rural housing incentive district, and that's an incentive tool that's being requested in connection with a new mixed-use economic development project. And the project is in the area of 191st to 199th Street and east of Highway 169. So because it's a mixed-use project, there are commercial aspects, there are residential aspects. The proposed rural housing incentive district, which the developer has requested the city provide as a tool, would basically allow the increase in property taxes, which naturally result from the residential development, to be used to help pay for the associated infrastructure. And so that's really the request here. And rural housing incentive districts as a tool are put in place in 3 different steps. So the first step and the first item that's before you this evening with this resolution is to consider a housing needs assessment and make certain findings based on that housing needs assessment about the need for housing in your community and whether or not that housing need is being met by the market or whether it needs to be incentivized. The next couple of steps, which are probably 60 to 90 days away, involve looking more closely at what the project entails, the finances, really what the deal is between the city and the developer. And I would note that with this first step this evening, if you adopt this resolution, making these findings and defining the boundary of the proposed district, you're not binding yourself to anything. The city isn't committed to anything. You're basically saying, we think that the residential housing market is not meeting our needs, and so we'd like to provide some incentives. After you adopt this resolution, if you adopt it this evening, then we submit the resolution to the Department of Commerce. If the Department of Commerce agrees, at that point then, 60 to 90 days from now, we come back and look at those details. So what we've done is working with the developers team, and there are a couple representatives of the developers team here this evening. We have taken the recently completed Johnson County Comprehensive Housing Study, which includes information specific to the city of Spring Hill, the Johnson County Housing Study, in conjunction with the Housing for All Toolkit, which is sort of strategies for implementing the findings of that study. We've used those and we've requested, and the developers team has provided a letter outlining the ways that the study supports the findings that you're required to make. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any additional questions, but it's staff's recommendation that you adopt a resolution to take this first step in the process of considering this tool for this project.
I was wondering, since it's the first step, that's part of 3 steps, and for the citizens of Spring Hill that are here, what are the incentives and where do they come from? And is the developer getting the incentives?
This is, right, there's no agreement yet between the city and the developer, and that will come together at the second and third step. But to answer your question about whether the developer would receive these incentives, they would receive a part of this. So the way an RHID works, the increased property taxes that are generated from developing the vacant land and turning it into a residential community are made available to pay certain eligible expenses. And the city has to agree as to what those expenses are. It's anticipated in this case that the city will issue general obligation bonds to pay for a portion of that infrastructure. Another portion of that infrastructure is being paid by the base grant that the city was recently awarded by the state. But the RHID revenues would be used in part to pay the debt service on the bonds that the city issues. And if there's surplus revenues there from the increase in property tax, the city and the developer could agree as to how those are shared, including reimbursing the developer for costs they've actually incurred. They don't just get the money as a handout. If they've demonstrated that, for instance, they've put in streets or sewers that benefit this property, then, and it's not otherwise financed with other tools, then they would be eligible to get a portion of those costs reimbursed from the surplus property taxes.
So would it increase Spring Hill's property taxes? And if it was also something about a city bond that we would have to take out, where does that money come from?
That is a fair question. The tool itself should not increase taxes to city residents. Even though property taxes are used and made available to reimburse certain expenses, there's no difference from the perspective of a homeowner paying taxes. You pay your property taxes as you normally do. It's just that a portion of those taxes, instead of being distributed to the various jurisdictions, instead are made available either in this case to pay debt service on bonds or to reimburse certain other eligible expenses. The bond issue that is proposed is a general obligation bond. So that by definition is a pledge of the city's property taxes. But part of what we do as your consultants, bond counsel, Baker Tilly, your financial advisor, the whole team, is to make sure that you're not issuing debt that you cannot pay for. In this case, it's anticipated that a special benefit district will be requested and that bonds will be issued, which will be backed by property taxes and special assessments. But part of the way this is intended to be structured, and again, we'll get into those details probably 60 to 90 days from now, is that because the RHID property taxes are available, the special assessments will not be borne by the homeowners. The homeowners will not be saddled with special assessments, even though that's an option and part of the process for issuing the bonds. Instead, the property taxes that the homeowners pay in the normal course of homeownership will be used to pay debt service on those bonds. And that's a very long-winded way of saying the property taxes on those homes should not be any different than property taxes on any other similarly priced home in your city.
So this is almost like the residential version of doing like a tax abatement for a.
It is. It's very much like a residential TIF,
Yeah.
where the increase in property taxes are made available.
Okay. And does this lock us into anything by doing the first step?
It does not. It does not lock you into anything. But before we move on, Mrs. North, did I address the questions you asked?
Well, the whole purpose of this housing benefit district down there is to try to help those that need to have housing that can accommodate different levels of housing income.
Sure.
So with that, how does that meander down through to help them? How does that help those that the housing is supposed to be more within their income level?
Sure. How does that help provide the housing needs?
What would the housing be that we're talking about to try to help those that need more like price range?
Yeah,
I want to make sure I follow up on one part of that question, so.
Right.
You please, and then give me a shot.
Well, and I think the best people that can answer that are the representatives of the developer that are here to talk about what they have planned for this particular project.
Also, is part of this project, when you talk about the city as a whole, is setting this up, and the area that we're setting up tonight will pay for the city's obligation on Webster. Because we are obligated by state in asking for and receiving the base grant is to build Webster from 199th to 191st. The obligation for that portion, the city's portion, to be put on with the 2.7 million will be paid by this district that you're seeing we're trying to form now. So it doesn't become a overall taxing for the entire city. I know it's saying general obligation bond, but this area, RHID area, will be responsible for that, where the city as a whole will not have to pay that.
Which is paying directly for the street that will be right next to their neighborhood.
Goes right
It's
through it.
encompassed in that
That's
area.
correct, just
So
as we
it's a
looked at
direct
it.
benefit infrastructurally to the people that are paying it right there, living there.
That's correct. So there's a couple of things that I can address on how does it trickle down, or how does this even help? Number one, obviously the city borrows money a lot cheaper. And then also, we received a $2.7 million base grant to complete a portion of this road. And in talking with the developers and all, and we still have a lot of discussion to go, but they're willing, and they can speak more of it, but they're willing to be obligated to have those lot prices lower. And we're looking at, for developers, and they're working with developers that are volume builders, that actually build in our community now. So there's several ways that you can chip off 10,000 here and 10,000 here and 4,000 here, where the lot, instead of being 60,000, or I don't know, you can do that, 80,000, it'll be 60, 50, somewhere in that area. So those are some of the ways of helping lower cost on that. And then, as you know, the rezoning went through, and it is quite a extensive development, with multifamily and commercial and things like that. So
It's R4, correct?
there
Can't remember.
is some R4 there.
I mean, there's a portion of it is,
Yes.
which would be smaller units, smaller prices. And
Well, on that part, they're looking strictly for apartments, which up there, but you are correct, it is.
different levels of affordability.
That's correct, yes.
So will those small businesses that's along the edge by 169 Highway, will they be the ones that have to pick up the burden, the small businesses?
No, RHID is a residential housing district, incentive district. There cannot be any commercial in that. So,
So
Yeah.
essentially, it's just taking a portion of the taxes that are already going to be paid, whether we did an RHID or not.
That's correct.
It's just taking a
And
portion.
it's kind of
So it's
the-
not costing the homeowner any money, it's not costing the city any money.
That's correct.
It's just providing an incentive to the
and
developer.
a lot of
to
times,
benefit the area.
a lot of
Investing the money
times,
back into
that's
that
correct,
area.
into the Webster
Yeah.
mainly.
And we don't have
Plus-
to bond it out to the full city limits so that all of our taxpayers would be paying for that piece of
That's correct.
infrastructure.
That
A
is,
big chunk of it's coming from the grant.
Yes.
This chunk of it's coming from the RHID. So we get a huge piece of infrastructure that doesn't come out of our general account.
exactly.
It's not like a
And doesn't touch our general account.
Yeah.
The other thing that we need to keep in mind is that, remember, this piece of property was, $800,000 in the hole on taxes. And this developer came in and paid those taxes instead of waiting for it to go to auction, which most likely we would have lost $300,000 or $400,000. And this sewer benefit district has been sitting there for 22 years, I believe.
Long time.
A long time, and don't quote me on the 22, but it's a long time. And the lift station's just sitting there, and so we've spent a lot of money on that already. But we did collect the back taxes from this developer, came in and paid it without too much. And it had been paid by the city for all these years because the owners of that property obviously didn't pay it. So, but this is just a first step to establish a district showing all this. And the reality is there is a piece of, did you include the manufacturing? Yes, industrial. So there is a piece of industrial that was put in there because we feel like, and in speaking with the developer, that there is a possibility that will be changed to the apartments and maybe move the apartment area out. Do you remember it butts up to the lady that came from, that's in unincorporated? And so there is a possibility that could change that zoning there in trying to accommodate everyone, so.
So if it changed, how would it help her, the lady that came in with the beam?
Well, I think that she was looking more for just single-family residential back there, which, they don't have to change that zoning because single-family is allowed in R4. Kind of like some of the rezoning that we will discuss later tonight, so. So, two important things is we are obligated to build this street. And if we're not going to, then, we really need to know and turn that money back to the state so someone else can do utilization.
And then probably never have a chance to get a grant again.
That's always a possibility, so that's all I really had to say. Is questions anymore for us?
Councilmember North, if I might direct part of your question, I think I may have understood, based on an earlier conversation we had. And Mr. Ellsworth, so bright, I'm simpler than him, and I'm looking at a slightly simpler way of saying it. This council reflected a concern about burdening new homeowners or existing homeowners with special benefit districts that they had not approved of. Special benefit districts, however, allow the city to issue taxes or to an extra property tax or a special property tax for something that benefits people in a certain district, rather than making everyone in Spring Hill pay for the new sidewalks in this area, for the new street and all the rest. So the special benefit district has that value. However, the council has indicated we don't want people to be caught with these. Part of the purpose of the RHID that Mr. Ellsworth referenced was so that, we're not bound to it, but one of the things that we're moving towards is allowing a special benefit district for that and using the RHID funds to pay for the special benefit district or the bonds for the special benefit district, rather than having special assessments on those. And I don't want to get in, Mr. Ellsworth can explain the complicated part. I'm going to do the simple part. We use that to pay for it, rather than putting that upon the homeowners. Instead, we use the RHID funding, at least in part, to pay for that special benefit district, which does two things. Relieves the homeowners and prevents the rest of the city from having to pay for benefits in that specific area. And I'll leave it to the experts from there.
Well, I do want to make it clear that there is no determination on using a benefit district yet on this, special benefit district. So we just wanted to make that clear. This is just one step in forming the area, so thank you.
Any other further questions or comments?
Is there any,
And I did see an audience member raise their hand, but at this time, we're not taking any questions. We'll try to save that for the citizen participation period.
is there any cost to this first step for the city as far as the research goes?
There is cost, but you approved a funding agreement at your last meeting.
Okay,
And
so it's already all,
it's
coming out of
Pay
that?
for that.
It's already
That's right.
included in that, okay.
That's right.
We haven't exceeded it right now.
They're not using all of it for that, are they?
I'm sure we far out and they have to put more in.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve resolution number 2022-R-16, making certain findings and determinations as to the need for housing within the city of Spring Hill, Kansas, and setting forth the legal description and map of real property proposed to be designated as a rural housing incentive district within the city Wiswell Farm Rural Housing Incentive District.
Second.
We've got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0.
Thank you.
All right, next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2022-26, rezoning Z-000022-2022, 199th and Ridgeview, RR to RP3. And Mr. Burton, you have the floor.
Okay, thank you. I apologize. I think I forgot to say good evening and glad to see you all here, and thank you for the vote for the city administrator.
Congratulations to you as well.
Thank you.
I know you've been waiting for the state for a long time.
Actually, everyone was really good to me. I'm working, and I appreciate your patience with it and all. Tonight, we're looking at an ordinance to approve the rezoning of a piece of property at approximately 199th and Ridgeview. Well, it is at 199th and Ridgeview. It's a Z-22-2022 is the rezoning identification of it. There's been a lot talked about it. Mr. Quinn has come in and asked for the 76.5 acres to be rezoned to an RP3, which is a planned district. The plan that he has is it's showing single-family use, about half of it on to the north, and then the other would be a multifamily use. And with the proposed of connected living fourplexes, and that design's not complete yet because we still have a lot of site plan work and all to do. The questions, I'll go ahead and address a lot of the questions that were asked by the residents. I realize that, yes, it probably would have been much cleaner, but we don't dictate to the developers what they file the paperwork and we work through it. And in this case, single-family zoning, or single-family is allowed to be built in the RP3. The protection measures is that the planning commission and the governing body must approve all of it that is there. It's not so simple to just go in and say, oh, well, now we're gonna build multifamily in 5-6 years. I mean, all of that, the governing body as well as the planning commission can say, no, you stick to the plan.
And since it's a planned district, that's what they already have, single family planned on the north half.
That's correct.
And so if they were to change it to multifamily, they would have to bring it back into the planning commission. The planning commission would have to approve that.
And the governing body.
And the governing body.
Yes, and you go through all the plans and and then we have a corridor that runs down through there. It's not gonna be so easy just to change those plans. There's a connector, I'm sorry. A connector runs from 199th to Woodland. And it's already set in place from the west coming east, and this is the last connecting link of that. Yes, would it? But he's still able to accomplish single family with this zoning right. So, and has shown that in this. The lots, and really, I said it at the planning commission meeting, his lots would meet just a plain R1 zoning, and then we have no control. As long as they meet the minimum standards on everything, and I am not bashing any type of housing, but, it's been brought up to me, well, could they just put manufactured housing? Yes, they could, under just a straight zoning. And I know that sometimes doesn't give much comfort to people because and I do realize, they do have a concern that, they don't want another council down the way or another planning commission to change this. And we are changing the comp plan right now. This property is not specifically looked in the old comp plan because until just 2 months ago, it wasn't even in the city limits. So the general, the general thought and the general way of doing things with the old comp plan is if it was not in the city limits, it was just put under an R zoning district. We could see very easily that we could go back and this half of this area could be commercial in accordance to an overall, planning perspective is how everybody does it. But, so there would have to be very, very good, there's a lot of steps to go through if they were to change in the future. This developer is planning on moving fairly quickly with this. I know there'd been some talk, well, the cattle are back on and all. Well, one thing is because it does affect your taxes right now. He has will have the rezoning, and the state of Kansas is use at the time. So cattle are on there, it will be tax agricultural until next year. So, and then the contract, we did see the contract, and it's up at the end of this year, so. And usually I don't get into those weeds, but it was brought up, so. Really, I think I've covered everything on it. In the comp plan, and it's a good location. There's been a lot of discussion by the governing body. And, we are getting prepared to start on Ridgeview. And this construction hopefully will just continue on and improve that area. So, like I said, the planning commission, I have to mention this. There was a petition filed and it was invalid. So I do need to mention that to you. And the planning commission did approve it and is asking the governing body to approve the ordinance for rezoning 2022. I will take any questions, and if there's something I missed, I'd like to answer it.
I like the idea that it's a planned district, because that does give the planning commission and the governing body a lot more control over what we do allow versus just being.
Right, one of the things is we really are trying to make that corridor area there with the roundabout and all. So, we're gonna look at it and probably, well, we will ask for additional landscaping along there and things like that, so.
I have some
Yes,
things
ma'am.
to say. Okay, so we were either elected or appointed on this governing body to do what's best for the city of Spring Hill for years to come. We're supposed to listen to the majority of citizens' voices, and there is a known element that home ownership is the glue that provides stability to any city. I'm for growth and development, and that growth and development needs to stand the test of time
Are
and
you speaking to me,
strategically
ma'am?
placed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Not just developmental trends that make the most profit for the developer, but not in the interests of the surrounding neighborhoods and schools. Our question today is, do we please the developer to make maximum profit, or do we listen to the voice of the majority of citizens who have made that the largest investment of home ownership in our city? I'd like to comment on 5 important factors on the rezoning of this land to RP3. First, choice. It's been inferred that we don't have a choice and that we should just rubber stamp everything that comes to the city council. We do have a choice, and we do have a say in how development is laid out to make our community safer and more attractive. 2, comprehensive plan. The purpose of the comprehensive plan is to minimize conflicts through development layouts, lot sizes, density, landscaping, and other appropriate design elements. RP3 does not meet the requirements in Section 17 of the comprehensive plan, specifically to the compatibility with neighboring subdivisions and homes, density, and safety. Number 3, compatibility. RP3 is multifamily and is not compatible with the surrounding neighborhood and homes. This plot of land is prime single-family development area. There are single-family homes surrounding the land, Spring Hill High School across the street, Wolf Creek Elementary School, and now a brand-new middle school behind the elementary. And making this land RP1 instead of RP3 makes more long-term sense for the city of Spring Hill. Number 4, density and safety. Rezoning to RP3 and putting multifamily will significantly increase density and traffic on 199th and Ridgeview. With high school, Wolf Creek Elementary, and the middle schools, there's already high volume of traffic every day, morning and afternoon, and approving the rezoning to RP3 multifamily will drastically increase the traffic on 199th and Ridgeview with potential for greater negative impact. And there are many teenage drivers and parents driving to and from that school from all areas of the city, even Olathe and Spring Hill, to come to these schools. Multifamily density on the 80 acres of land will greatly increase traffic around the schools and through estates of Wolf Creek subdivision. Putting 2 streets that exit across from the 2 entrances of the high school would create a mess. Also, connecting Newcastle Street through to the 80-acre development, not quite 80 acres, with multifamily will be a major negative impact on single-family homes of the estates of Wolf Creek. To get to the elementary school and middle school from the proposed Garrett Ranch development as RP3, people will choose the shortest distance with fewest stop signs and travel on Newcastle Street through the estates of Wolf Creek neighborhood. Number 5. There is a place and a need. I believe there is a need for RP3 and RP4 within our city, but do not believe 199th and Ridgeview is a place for multifamily. I also don't believe that every subdivision proposed needs to have multifamily in it. I know it may maximize profit for developers, but that's not always the best interest of the city or those who are looking to invest in the purchase of a $500,000 to $750,000 home that supposedly was going to be on the RP1. I am for strategically placing multifamily around 169 Highway and land around the railroad tracks or any areas that make it more compatible than around single-family neighborhoods and 3 schools. Summary. I believe Quinn Development builds quality single-family homes in nice residential developments. And I believe that this land we're discussing tonight that's next to the high school and single-family homes is better suited all RP1.
Thank you. I mean, if you were talking to me,
I was talking to everybody.
okay, if you'd
And
like
us
me
as a
to
governing
address
body.
any of that, I would.
Sure.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So, mixed signals sent, I'll just tell you, to us when one was turned down just up the street. And it was said multiple times that, well, I won't say exactly what was said because that closer to the school, because people will be able to walk to school and things of that nature. Now, I didn't hear you, ma'am, contradict that at all. And we go on what we are guided for. I had already introduced that to everyone. Now, I don't really want to get in that, but a lot of it was directed at our planning commission and myself. And there are other aspects of it that we've discussed several times in funding of streets and impact fees and things like that. To just have single-family residential in the entire community will not keep up with our infrastructure.
You understood,
And-
you didn't understand me.
I-
It wasn't that we wanted all single residential all over the city.
Placement.
It was that the placement
I agree.
next to 3 busy
Yes,
schools,
and
and that land is not the best strategically placed according to neighboring subdivisions. And yes, we are for growth and development that we have tried to explain. We denied that one on 207th and Ridgeview because that was high density, and this is medium density, and there's already a lot of dense traffic there anyway. And there are plenty of other areas around Spring Hill, like I said, that are being developed with multifamily, and every single plan that's come from the Planning Commission to us as a governing body has been multifamily, and that does not all have to be approved, because we have a choice.
I have no other comments, Mayor.
Ms. North, I respect your opinion on everything,
Oh, I
all
do
the
too.
time.
I apologize.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you on quite a bit of it tonight for this particular one. I think it is a good spot for the RP3. I think zoning the entire property RP3 is not the most ideal situation. I definitely think doing half of it RP3 and half of it RP1 would be certainly much more ideal. I understand that the RP, if it were to go RP1, that's additional time, cost. I know Mr. Quinn is here. I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about what was some of the thought process behind doing the entire thing RP3. But I don't think RP3 is a bad spot for that corner. Those are two of our in best shape, 199th and most likely to get better soon roads, and Ridgeview also. So I think those are the types of roads that are designed and built and will get upgraded to handle the kind of traffic that's going to be at that intersection. So my really only issue with this is that the whole thing is RP3, and if we were really looking at it, I do think that the south half of it should be RP3 and the north half of it should be RP1. I think if we did that, it would provide some additional comfort for the citizens that live just to the north of it. But I'm not really certain how feasible that is, or what benefit, you know, how much hardship do we need to put ourselves or the developer through to give ourselves a little bit more peace of mind? Because I do wholeheartedly believe that they're gonna build RP1 lots on that RP3 section, and there's gonna be single-family homes right there next to single-family homes, which I don't see a problem with putting single-family homes next to single-family homes.
They have to, in accordance to the plan.
Because the plot's been approved already, and if it had to, we do have protections because it's a planned district. So it could, you know, if they were to make a change, it would have to go through the planning commission, and they could say no at that point. We could say no at that point. All the citizen feedback that we heard tonight is there's really no issues with the plot plan and what the drawing is. And, you know, the planning commission meeting, a lot of the issues that we're talking about there were about the roads. And I think we're incredibly aware about what our road situation is and how hard we gotta work to get our road situation better. There's, the list of roads that don't need work is much shorter than the list of roads that do.
And I would
So-
say, not to interrupt, but I would say it's safe to say that that is our biggest priority as a governing body, is getting these roads fixed.
Yes, and I think it's also what we are really, really, really focused on, is we know that that is what we have to do. And there was some talk at the planning commission of putting the cart before the horse, you know, having the infrastructure first. Yes, in the most ideal 100% perfect world, that is exactly how we would want to do it. Most of the situations that we get dealt and have to make decisions on are not ideal circumstances, and this is just another one that is not perfectly ideal. Having said that, I'd like to hear everybody else's thoughts and also from Mr. Quinn.
Well,
I think he's still here.
I have a couple questions too. I would have to agree with most of what you said. I guess the biggest question I have is, I know there's a bunch of steps you have to go through to change the plot plan.
Yes, sir.
What recourse do we have if it meets all the requirements to change it? I mean, is there any, can the city just say no just because they don't want to?
That's correct.
There's no
because
way they can sue it
it's
to
al-
say you have to
No,
change
it's
it to-
already planned like this.
Okay.
And that was the original plan, and you,
Because I know that's what sounded like the main concern, is that if we don't have a good reason to say no to change it in the future,
yes, we do.
can we,
All you have to
can
say
we
is
block it?
no.
Okay, so
Because if
legally,
we just stick with, Chuck can tell you.
yeah,
Go ahead, Chuck.
Short answer.
yeah.
Certainly. Sorry for my loquacious. This is plan development, as plan development in order to, if it is changed, because the plat has already been approved by the planning district. One of the advantages for the city of a plan development, regardless of which type, if the plan, the plan must be approved. It has to go to the planning commission, and if they do not, and if they approve it, it comes here, plan can be rejected because it was not consistent with the original submitted plan, even though the zoning. Now, the odd situation is that tonight, in front of you, is only the zoning, but because it is a plan, and because this is an important part of the question for this council, if they want to change the plan, they have to send it through. Want to be completely clear with that. It must go through the planning commission and the city.
Can I ask a follow-up question?
Because they,
So I have a question. So even if we have a recession, property changes owners, the new property owner, are they bound to that same plan?
Yes.
Okay.
If they're, and when I say bound to, they're bound to it,
They would need to go through
they
the
would
same
need
steps
to
as the
come
original
back to
developer.
change it.
Okay.
and there's no
That
telling,
follows the land, that item.
and there's no telling the planning commission or the governing body at that time, hey, they filed it to the T, we've got to approve it. We've already said yes to this plan, we don't have to approve any additional plans if it's not the same. Is that correct? Because like before, the
I
thing
can't.
we've had, said was, hey, they followed it to the T, So we've got to approve it.
Right, that was an initial.
That's initial. So initial, that's kind of the plan.
That's
with-
correct.
For a changeover, that's
It's-
not necessarily.
No, and it's just like a preliminary plat.
Okay,
If
that's
they
fine.
go and start changing roads and all, let's just say regular single family, we do not have to approve those road changes. And how you get involved on a final plat is accepting right of way and easements. But yes, I'll let Chuck finish, but they cannot change.
And I feel like
state.
that should give the people that are worried about it, that should give them a peace of mind, knowing that they cannot change it, or even if the property sells 10 years down the road, they still can't change it
And to be clear,
without the process. They can't change it.
the process, whether or not you or a future council elects to approve a change, I can't address that. But I can tell you that this part is crystal clear. If they wish to make a change, it has to go back through the process. And that part is, and that's very important to understand. Thank you, I'll be sure. I'll end there.
The preliminary plot was approved by the planning commission at the same meeting as the rezoning. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I did not hear.
Yes, it was.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Thank you.
So, and that's why it locks that plan in.
Yes.
We haven't
Yes.
approved that yet, but it will come to us in the future.
That is correct.
Because we gotta
It's
do the
locked in.
rezoning
It's a
first.
planned district. So,
So the concern that I'm hearing is they're worried, they love the plan, love the way it's laid out, love, other than Mrs. North.
Actually, I walked door to door to the majority, well, I got almost every single house in there is 96, and they weren't in favor of the
okay,
plan.
so they don't like.
They weren't all in favor of the
Well,
plan. They
I'm just
wanted RP1.
I think she's
okay?
going off of the people that are here, that showed up.
No, it
showed up to
was
the meeting.
my neighborhood. I
We've heard
walked
this-
everyone to hear the
Oh, yeah,
voice of
Mrs.
the people.
Right, what we're saying is she's saying
And
the people that
actually,
are
they
here.
wanted RP1 from the petition, but they just didn't think they had a choice. So-
I'm gonna finish my thought real quick if you don't mind. So let me rephrase that. We heard from folks that do like what you have presented, excuse me, I didn't mean to direct to Mr. Quinn, but the concerns that I heard personally were the RP3 in the north half. I am assuming that there are reasons that you went with RP3 in a section where you knew you were putting larger lots and single-family homes. And I'm assuming much like us, where we use tools in different ways to help us get to the best plan. And I don't expect you to like show your hand or anything, but I'm assuming, again, this helps you get it done quicker or saves you money or anything like that. Again, I don't expect you to show your hand if you're not comfortable, but if this is a tool that you're using to get there faster at a more cost-effective manner, et cetera, I'm not opposed to using those tools strategically, much like we do up here. So that's why having the security of the site plan and that has to be followed. The RP3 does not bother me. The mere presence of the RP3 zoning does not bother me because I have security knowing that you've already submitted a plan for the single-family homes, and should you change your mind or sell the property or whatever, as Mr. Dunlay reiterated, it would have to come back to the planning commission and the council to approve that. Lots of people are in favor of the plan you've already submitted. I don't want to say everybody. I am in favor of the plan you submitted. So again, I'm assuming this RP3 zoning in its entirety is a tool that you're using to, like I said, move faster, save money, whatever it is.
And if you'd like to address that.
Some specific purpose.
Right.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So, I'm Dan Quinn, live at 10823 West 164th Street. Mayor, members of council, thanks so much for considering the plan and the zoning. It's important to recognize that staff wholeheartedly supported this through a lot of time and conversations, as well as the planning commission. So we appreciate that, and I think that that needs to be mentioned. We own the ground now. A lot of guys come with ground under contract trying to dream a dream. We bought the ground, paid cash for it, and we own the ground. And I think the main misunderstanding that's been throughout this whole process is exactly what you're talking about. And my neighbors and soon-to-be friends have the same concern. And I think really you guys explained the primary concern, which in summary is, if it changes in the future, next year, 10 years from now, it has to come back through the process. So based on that, there really isn't much difference between RP1 and RP3, considering that, knowing that, understanding that. So with the holistic plan, and I'd like to think that I'm a student of master plan community development. I've been doing it almost 30 years. I started very young. And I appreciate your comment about our developments and our home building. We hope that they're beautiful homes and beautiful communities, and we only continue to do the same thing. Haven't done a development in Spring Hill before. We're really excited to be here. The community's great. I've been here with my kids and eating at the barbecue restaurant and going to the old downtown for, many, many years, getting to know a guy the barber who wants to cut my hair, because I always need haircuts. He's supposed to be the best barber around. So we're excited to be here. I've got a lot of indirect history with the community, and we only have one goal. And that goal is to build a beautiful community that has a linear progression with development, with what's already going on, and what is to come and that's what a comprehensive plan is. So although it went from the county to the city, we're creating something that we anticipate will fit wonderfully and perfectly with what the city, in at least our opinion, should become. And the other thing that needs to be identified is you've got the school district. A lot of people with a lot of research and a lot of studies place these 3 schools right here, which is what caused us to pull the trigger to proceed because of the middle school. We're like, this is one of the showcase pieces of property in your whole city. So we don't build the cheapest stuff, and we don't cut corners on landscaping. And I'll kind of wrap it up, but we're excited to do this, so I get a little windy. There are more restrictions with RP3 and with RP1, but I'll argue the fact that there's very little difference between RP1 and RP3 with a comprehensive plan that's submitted. There are way more restrictions on a developer, which ends up costing a lot more for a developer to do an RP3. And we're okay with that because we want design restrictions on the homes, on the landscaping, on the flow. Everything that we do is going to cost a little bit more than the average bear, but it's going to end up being a legacy development that everybody will enjoy living there, interacting with it, creating walkability. The goal of the density is to have a variety of families, whether they're active empty nesters that don't need a huge house, all the way to young families. And affordability is not an ugly word. We've got a county problem with affordability. We have a country problem with affordability. And if you guys aren't on board with that, then you're not paying attention to what's going on. So just because it's duplexes, triplexes, and fourplexes, which is all we have planned, nothing more than that, and that's what the plan represents, by the way, that is a mixed-use community. That is a comprehensive plan for the community. I think it's a phenomenal plan for that location and for the community, and I'm really proud of what we're presenting. We're not money-grubbing developers. We're not cutting corners. I've got a little bit of regret knowing that there's a residential incentive plan available to get tax dollars to help us. That's fantastic. I think we're gonna resubmit something, but we're not asking for any money. And I understand how TIF plans work and benefit districts work, and you guys have seen benefit districts firsthand and surety bonds backfire in this community, because I've been out here my whole life in Johnson County. And I've seen what's going on. And sometimes you got some good recommendations that don't work out, and they didn't work out. So we're not asking for any money. We can do it. We're well capitalized. I've been doing this a long time, probably 15 subdivisions in Johnson County over about 20-something years. So we know what we're doing. We're well capitalized. We're going to start with the first phase will be single family next to Wolf Creek Estates. So that as soon as we get approved, our engineers here with us, they're already working on construction plans to do that. So that's what we'll start, is on the north end with single family. So, and I'm not too worried about the recession of what's going on, by the way. So it's going to take, it'll be the springtime before we can start building these single family homes. So we have to start now. And I could be wrong, but I think that this is a minor economic slowdown. I read a ton of stuff nationwide. There's a fundamental shortage of housing, not only in Johnson County, right across our country. So that is the one fundamental thing, and that's just simple math. There's about 5 million houses short of demand in our country right now. In Johnson County, it's actually much worse. So that's gonna prevent any kind of a massive recession like we had, you know, in '09, which I survived and went through. Everything involves a little bit of risk. That's the bottom line. So you have to look at the whole picture and go, you know what, this is a reasonable risk. And that's about where all you guys are at. But I gotta make no apologies for this plan at this location. I think it's awesome. It's gonna be beautiful. Everyone's gonna be really proud of it. And if I was from Newark or California or Denver, Colorado, and it was my first subdivision, you guys might go, well, slow your horses, let's dig a little deeper. But some of you I know have been through my developments and you know a little bit about me, and I'm from here, born and raised. So you gotta take a little bit of risk, a little bit of a leap of faith. And I guess that's what we're asking for y'all to do.
And from my understanding, we're kind of one of the only cities that normally do multi rezonings in a plot like this. Normally, the going RP3 and the whole thing is a fairly normal thing, but Spring Hill has kind of historically done different zonings throughout the property. Because when I look at like Olathe, you
That's
see
correct.
big, huge, you know, R4, you know, RP3,
Yes.
whatever. Like this particular property where there's not really a plan for that, but it's, you know, it's there just because it's how the zoning's done.
And as you looked in Summit Overland Park, these large ones, and they have a mixed use in them, you know, just like what's planned here. So,
There was some talk in the planning meeting about maybe setting aside some of the excise taxes for Ridgeview specifically to help build it up quicker.
right,
Is that,
so that's not a discussionary item because Planning Commission has no authority on purse strings, is how I put it. Now, Mr. Quinn and I have already spoke, you know, he's paying his excise tax, and we will do improvements. What they are right now, we're not certain, because they're just starting on the street, on the plans, I'm sorry, infrastructure plans. But yes, there are plans to help improve Ridgeview.
And Johnson County has,
And-
we've been in talks with them.
That's correct.
As well, about plans they have for improvements on Ridgeview.
And the roundabout was planned for development in there. It's large enough to make 4 lane, or 2 lane all the way around is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
So it was planned for that. But yes, they just wanted on the radar to make sure that there were sidewalks put in and improvements to streets. Yes.
and that's what I'll say. I mean, I guess I'm on the other side.
We haven't even seen CIP
Yeah,
yet for you guys.
For me, it's, with the 3 schools there, this is exactly where multifamily should go because it has walking access to all the schools. And so for me, that makes more sense rather than the other 2 properties we've looked at in the past. But, I do feel better with the RP3 with the fact that we don't have any legal obligation to say yes to a change unless it's what the governing body at the time wants in the planning commission. So I would say that definitely.
That is correct. And like Mr. Quinn said, to ease some concerns, he'll start to the north.
Yeah.
And start working in.
So they'll be able to see right away that they're holding to their word and doing what they've
Right.
submitted.
And probably, you know, really, well, they're gonna be really, really nice houses, and they might hit the 700 mark. And
And raise property value.
I'm telling you,
Normally do.
that's what we're trying. Oh, I did want to, Ms. North, and I forgot to address this for you, is, Newcastle. And yes, I understand cut-throughs and all. The problem is it was designed by the developer at that time to connect into that Collector Street.
And if something's not a good thing, what hinders it from changing? I think it'd be great to use that greenway space to make it a walking path or a biking path so that the kids can stay safe that already walk on Newcastle. Because right now, it's not easy access to the high school. I worked with Mayor Ellis, and when it was reasonable, we helped where the school district did not finish their part on that side. None of the high school kids could get across. And so
I remember.
with helping that, we got a partial sidewalk.
And so
It doesn't even go up to Wolf Creek Elementary, and I think that does need to be addressed
And I
for
think
safety,
that-
because I went over to the new middle school, They're not even open for a while. They've got 2 grand long sidewalks that go up to the middle school, but yet Wolf Creek that's been sitting there, it's been a problem with Ridgeview, even if it's a black asphalt path that connects to go all the way up, because they go on field trips.
So,
And they have to wander through the middle of the neighborhood because nobody was accountable. Bob Garver, things have changed since we've been in that
I
development.
understand, and that's what
And
I'm
with
getting.
no right that we could even have any word about it. He pulled fountains out that were in there. It was never made. He told us you'd be trespassing if you walked on what was supposed to be those last homes there. They built and paid 3 times as much as we did so they could have 2 lit fountains in their backyard and a fishing pond
Dock area.
and trails, and then they were told he pulled out. And I
Yes.
felt very sad that he had a very bad accident, pulled out. And I used to be on the rezoning committee, and that was never gonna be a school there. And then all of a sudden, I don't know when it happened, the middle school came there. It was supposed to be like 4 plexes, if I believe, a few years
As,
back.
16, 12, and 16 plexes.
And my husband sells apartment jobs and building for the last 50 years, his family. And developers can change, because I asked him, how did Bob Garver get out of that? And
And how did he?
how did he?
A poor
don't know.
plan up front, and that's what we're trying to do, a planned district that has to stick. I'm not gonna go into that district. You and I will talk about that district if you will allow me to, because there is past, we're trying to clean up from past in just about every aspect of this community. But I don't wanna get on that tangent, we're trying to do this rezoning. Is there any other questions for any of us?
And the other thing that,
Because I want to not lose my thought, because, and now I've lost it, no.
I was just gonna make a comment.
Go
So,
ahead.
I mean, walkability and bike riding is one of the most beautiful things to a comprehensive mixed-use community, I personally believe. And I know everything that you're talking about, and I knew Bob and saw his development go in. Through Garrett Ranch, through the connectivity, we're gonna have a sidewalk and a street that'll connect right across the street to the high school with a crossing, not a crossing guard, but
No, cross.
Crosswalk.
crosswalk. Thank you. I still have
Flashing
COVID
lights on
fog.
it and all, too.
Yeah. So that's a great little fix to allow that connectivity for walkability and bicycles from, and that'll be for the residents of Wolf Creek Estates and Garrett Ranch to have access to the high school. So I know exactly what you're talking about, and nothing we can do about it. We're not gonna worry about it at this point. So very soon, we
Just try
can,
and fix it.
we can solve the problem. Hopefully that helps.
the only other thing that plays into this, and I know it's been way played down on the density, which it is gonna be a lot more dense with multifamily, is the plans that were not very transparent on Ridgeview, on 199th Street with North Point Development, that's Amazon, and the railroad working to do the intermodal 4-lane connection with semis every 35 seconds sometime in the future. This was decided before any of the city was
That's correct.
developed. 15 to 20 years ago. They tried to tell the city not to go north. It's our city. We should be able to develop it within the city limits. And right now, the word is out, and people are writing to the Attorney General, and he has the power and authority to stop that 4-lane corridor. So I wouldn't take it for granted that that's gonna be widened, because that will divide Spring Hill. That will, a semi coming off of, semis going by on a 4-lane corridor with all of the subdivisions that are built coming off feeding there, the density is gonna be horrendous. I'm so thankful my high school kids are grown, but I care about the future,
So,
and I won't have to be crossing that.
right, and so Mr. Quinn hopes that you are correct, that, and really the planning department, community development does not want that. But as you said, that was designed 15, probably longer than that, and I can go into a whole story because of intermodal, because I lived it. I owned a lot of property there. And, so, you know.
I think we
Stop
should
it.
try and
Just
stay
have
on
to
topic
email.
as much as possible.
Email the
Yes,
Attorney
so-
General.
Are there any other
And I
questions or
think you
comments?
could bring that up in, you're in.
It's just
you
kind
know.
of all the same
I
area.
understand.
So it
I
does
understand.
play into it as
It
far
does
as the
connect
density.
to it,
And that's
yes.
why I want, are those people gonna know about that settle in Garrett, that that's a possibility if it can't be stopped?
Well, the developer can't really say anything because, I mean, there are no approved plans on it,
Okay, so it
you
isn't
know.
approved,
So,
like
it-
everybody says it's
well,
approved.
it's not approved plans.
Right.
So,
Okay.
yeah.
I know I've said a lot, but
No, I
all of that
understand.
is just, it won't affect me. But
Mm-hmm.
that intersection, it will affect anybody in the city in Olathe that's
understand.
gonna be going around a roundabout. I've gone through 7 kids that have gotten driver's ed,
Mm-hmm.
you know, driver's licenses, and all of their kids in Spring Hill are gonna be facing, driving. The roundabout's great, there hasn't been any problems.
And they'll
But-
face that in Olathe, they'll face it in Overland Park, they'll face it wherever they travel in the future. And yes, we do want to make it as safe as we can. And our job is to try and think ahead for that and plan ahead, like the larger roundabout. And I do believe that the governing body's job is to contact the senators and representatives and things of that nature and discuss that, if that is something that is really bothering you, so.
So if we connect all of the pathways, like the goal of Spring Hill is, bring all the neighborhoods in.
Yes.
The older part, the fun historic part, how will we do that if it's a 4-lane corridor and we're investing in all these little greenways, and
Right,
biking
so-
paths, that'll be pretty hard to cross.
Well, and that's where good planning puts in, and I know I'm going off course, but going under it, going over it,
Okay.
and things like that. You know, we should have been fighting to have something under 169 to get to Veterans Park. And that will come one of these days when the state goes to work on that.
All right, any other
They've been
questions?
waiting 20 years to work on it, so.
Any other questions or comments pertaining to this? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2022-26 for rezoning application Z22-2022 for the described property from RR to RP3.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes.
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mrs. North,
No,
pardon? The tally vote is 3-1. But the ordinance passes.
It's ordinance you gotta have the mayor, right?
I think
Yeah.
I vote too.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm missing one. That's why everybody's looking at me.
Yep.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
Okay, so I restate the tally vote of 4-1-0. Oh my goodness, sorry.
All right, ordinance number 2022-26 passes 4-1-0. Next item on the agenda is consider acceptance of annexation petition A-000004-2022 20200 Woodland Road. And Mr. Burton, you have, Andrew DeBoeuf, and Mr. Burton, you have the floor.
Thank you. This is an annexation of a piece of property that is along Woodland, along the railroad tracks, and it's been purchased. There was I believe a resident or a building that burnt there, a young man that has purchased it, and we're going over several different development ideas with anything from storage, and I can tell you this because he doesn't mind, storage to what they now classify like a man cave, where you can rent it for months at a time and do your work and things of that nature in there. You're just messing with me huh, on the mic. So it will be commercial or industrial next to the railroad tracks. And in this instance, when the plan starts and everything, we will start to make sure that we have the proper right-of-ways acquired to make Woodland an arterial. It's a simple petition. It adjoins the community yard.
Any questions or comments on that one?
So when this comes in, what is it? Is it zoned RR then, or?
Yes. It'll come in as residential.
Any other questions or comments? If not, I entertain a motion.
I move to approve the petition of annexation A4-2022 filed by Andrew DeBoof. Pardon if I butchered that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0.
Wait,
Next item on the agenda is consider approval of ordinance number 2022-27, annexation of A-00004-2022-20200 Woodland Road, Andrew Buff. And Mr. Burton?
Thank you.
Anyone else?
This is, the same area. It was a different, legal. So the annexation, he didn't have time to connect it yet. And they're going through all the engineering and all to possibly make it one piece instead of two. So this is just another piece there that, had a different legal so that we could get it annexed.
It's a different piece of property?
It is. It sits right next to it.
When you say legal, you mean legal description of the
Legal description,
Okay,
yes.
because
In
the
county-
address is the same.
It is, but it's a separate legal description for a separate piece of property that adjoins the one we just
Is it
annexed.
just south of it?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't see a map in the packet.
Yeah, there's no map.
Is the
On the
initial
first
highlighted,
one,
is that highlighted area in the first agenda item? Is that
adjoins
the-
it, or
Okay.
has it.
Oh,
So it includes that, the
Yes.
second piece?
That's correct.
That highlighted is for both pieces?
Yes,
Okay.
that is correct.
you.
Isn't that right? The next piece also, yes. So it is the next piece as well. See the highlighted?
Yeah.
Take the next piece south as well.
Oh, okay, so it's the second piece is not included in the highlighted area?
That's correct,
Okay.
because you can see the legal description on
Does
it.
it go all the way down to?
No, it does not. I apologize for, oh, you have it.
You put it up there?
If I might comment
There
very
we go.
quickly, there's a slight error. It's not a different legal. It's this, you accepted the petition. This is the approval of the ordinance,
Okay, that's what I thought.
adopting the acceptance
One was a
of what was there.
Yeah, so it's all the
And
same.
so this is an ordinance,
No, the top.
not
Right.
for the previous,
Is that right? This-
It's
We
just
approved the
one piece.
petition first.
And now-
and now
We
you're,
approve the authorization of the annexing.
Correct.
right, which is done by ordinance, and that's why the first time you did it by.
Yeah.
And so there was a little confusion
Oh,
there.
general, I see. Okay, I thought it was a different section right there. I apologize for that. It is just that piece.
Okay.
Yeah, okay.
This is the annexation ordinance.
And that's why that's why the address is the same. 'Cause it's the
Yes.
same property.
It's the same thing.
He does have other property there that we're working on, so.
Gotcha.
All right, any questions or comments on this one? If not, Madam Clerk, will you please take a roll?
Oh, we need a
Motion.
motion.
No, sorry, I entertain a motion. Dang.
I move to adopt ordinance number 2022-27 authorizing the annexation of land located at 2200 Woodland Road.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, now, Madam Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Who seconded that, please? Mr. Young,
Mr. Young.
thank you. Mrs. North,
Yes.
Mrs. Roth,
Yes?
Mr. Peel,
Yes.
Mr. Young,
Yes.
Mayor Berkey.
Yes.
Tally vote is 5-0, sorry.
All right, thank you. Ordinance number 2022-27 passes 5-0-0. Next item on the agenda is a discussion item, and it's Veterans Park Memorial, and Mr. Messer, you have the floor.
What I'd like to do is go ahead and introduce Craig Rhodes with Vireo to explain the options that we looked at. So, Larry's playing hooky. I think he went on vacation.
Larry's in New York. Thank you, Craig Rhodes, Vireo. So I've kind of been connected to this, actually. I'm the one that sealed and signed all the documents, so I've been pretty connected to it. So as I understand, you received one bid.
and that was rejected, and you're wanting to rebid. So we looked at a few options. First off, I will tell you I went through the same thing at another city last Thursday. We are seeing this everywhere, where we're getting very high bids, obviously. There's lots of concerns with lack of competition because everybody's so busy. There's concern with materials and delivery and gas and, as you know, all of the different things. So we're seeing upwards to twice as much, just like this one was as far as bid. So it's been concerning for us. You know, we're trying to work through with all the different options. But like Larry sent in his email, there are a few, and there's probably a few other options that we can do here, but obviously rebidding is the first step. I would say, just like I told my last community last week, we've got to get more bids. So we're gonna do what we can. We need the city doing what they can to get more interest if we can find it. Like I said, that's been more difficult just from everybody's busy. And we're getting contractors that are bidding on things really high. If they get it, they'll figure out a way to get it done. If they don't care.
Yeah.
You know, they're busy. So that's kind of what we're seeing.
That's the bid we got.
Yeah.
That is the bid that you got.
Yeah.
And that actually is the bid that we got on the other one. Same firm or same company. So, you know, he had mentioned some options. I think after our discussions with some contractors, definitely we want to lengthen the time frame if you guys are, you know, okay with that. We are seeing lots of concerns with if they get into situations where they can't get materials or it's delaying, are they gonna get into liquidated damages, you know, those kinds of things. So they don't want to be a part of the going over what they bid as, you know, a 3-month time frame. So I think that's definitely probably something we should look at here. I think we threw out there maybe even going to 6 months if you're good with that.
6 months is better than nothing.
Yeah, it is. Like I said, in the last discussions I've had, Johnson County Parks and Recreation District, we ran into the same thing there. We got 4 bids and all of them were, you know, way high. And they looked at a different way. They had the ability to actually go in and build some things on their own. So they had on-call contractors and things like that they're able to do. We don't probably have that option here, so we do need to go out to bid again. We can break it down. The reason Larry had mentioned breaking it down from the jetties and the Veterans Memorial spot really is it makes sense of that division, right? And the other thing is, it makes sense for us as far as the timing and what we've put into it to date. We're into kind of deep into our contract, beyond it. So as simple as we can make that division, the better off it is for us also, but we'll do what you guys need. You know, we can bid different alternates. The issue here is how can we divide that up? We've heard concerns with some of at least the one that bid, we did discuss it with them. And I need to check with Larry a little bit more on this, but the granite that was selected is coming from a long distance, and is there another option? I think there was lots of discussions with staff and with others with what we wanted to see there, but that was one of our, you know, that's kind of a big cost in it. We can obviously go as far as simplifying, but we're pretty simple on the concept. I think we've gone through a lot of reiterations of it. Would prefer not stepping too far backwards on that, because it's really important to have a plan that, you know, commemorates what we're doing. And we don't want to step so far back that we're not doing that. So that's kind of where we're at. I think we know we need to rebid. I would like to hear your questions and discussions about if you had any other ideas or questions for me about that.
I guess like I would reiterate, like I said a little while ago, I would definitely be in favor of extending it out to 6 months. I mean, right now, nothing is happening.
Yeah.
So if you add another 3 months onto the 3 months that was there, that's still better than not doing anything.
We're hearing most of them are very busy through the end of the year, and it's starting to, you know, they think they're gonna loosen up beyond that. None of them are thinking that costs are gonna change. Obviously, we don't think they're gonna all of a sudden just plummet, right? But they do see that they're probably gonna level out. So when they start to level out, people don't get as busy, the competition has to start happening again, as we know how economics work, you know.
Essentially, if we can add some more time to it, then that gives us a better chance of getting better prices and more bids.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Well, and I know I think it was last meeting, last time we talked about this, I know if I remember right, I think the majority of us up here really wanted to see some motion and some action, but again, like you said, there's nothing happening right now,
Yeah.
so, you know, I also don't see us paying a higher price for something that wasn't budgeted, money we don't have. I would be more in favor of waiting, lengthening the time, waiting for that longer time frame, or God forbid for the market to maybe.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, you can also just go on hold for a little while if you want to, and we could wait 3 months to rebid with a 6-month
Well, and
time
that's what I
frame
was
if you
talking
want to do that.
If I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought the consensus up here was they didn't wanna do that, they wanted to move forward, but I wonder if maybe that's maybe something we should consider, not putting it on hold,
Yeah.
not stopping it, but just letting the market calm down a
Short
little
delay.
bit,
Yeah,
letting some of
it's-
the competition come back to life.
Yeah.
To get this price back down to an appropriate spot. I don't wanna delay the memorial or the purpose of this park. I think everybody's excited and ready for that to happen, but we also have to be mindful of the budget that we've put in place for this, and we can't accept obviously.
You know,
this sort of
you
thing.
just kind of made me think of just a few things. There is a possibility, you know, there's the flag memorial area as you walk in. I mean, if we want to just bid just the flag area, just to at least start to represent what this park is about, and see if we can go out and get a good price on just that item.
I would
That-
be interested.
You know, something like that, that is simple for us to maybe pull out,
I think we.
or maybe you even have ways of doing that in a different way.
I've
That
honestly-
location.
And I've honestly had community members come to me and tell me that exact same thing, that they just wanna see something happen.
Yeah.
They're like, they've been promised things for a long time, and they actually used, what they said, you know, could we even get a flag out there? Like, we
Yeah.
have, it's Veterans Park and there's nothing for veterans.
And that's the good thing, is it's pulled out front, so I mean, that is something that can be done.
Yeah, I think we have to do some component now.
I think
Like,
it's a great idea to look.
I think if we delay some of it, I would be okay with that. If we split it to, you know, fishing jetties, maybe we'll hold off for a couple of months on that piece of it. The memorial aspect is what my number one focus needs to be
Sure.
at this point. That's what the park was originally designed for. That's what we got donated money for. That's the piece that we've been really, really waiting on. That's what we need to get done. So I think if we can focus on that component, zero in on what the best way to do that is, and try and get it back out to bid again.
I mean, that's probably an option. That's probably something we should look at, is just, maybe we get the walks to that one walk to that point, and we get the flag location in. We're at least moving, we're showing something as a city. Mr. Burton knows, how long have I been working on this with you?
Oh, yeah.
Well, I mean, we started, I'm now 2 years plus,
It's been more than
3 years.
I think it's been
in
3
this.
so, 3 or 4.
So-
Would doing something like he was suggesting, would that satisfy? the
Right, so a few things I need to go over with you.
It'll-
The jetties, one of the donations is designated
For that.
Yeah,
to
specifically
jetties.
for the jetties.
Okay, I didn't
There's another
realize that there was
donation that is
multiple.
for the memorial part. And if you recall, they had asked that, you know, the granite they weren't too worried about. They're more concerned about the bricks, selling the bricks. So I think the granite, we could just, that would be a hold item. Allow them to start selling the bricks, get that part and the jetties going. Because we also have some large rock that is gonna be donated to us to help with the jetties. And then while we're on it, I've been reaching out to developers, and actually Roush Coleman they reached out and said that they want to donate a substantial amount to this. So I think we could do a little better job also on promoting it, and we'll get started on that soon.
I mean,
But break it up, yes, but just keep in mind, one section of the donated money has to go for the jetties.
I didn't realize that. I thought there was.
No,
just
I
one
understand,
more.
that's why I was saying.
And the only fear I have of I'm all for breaking up probably no more than 3 different sections, but my only fear about breaking it up too much is then you don't get the cost. pricing with bundling it together versus you split it up, you might end up paying, you know, what you were gonna pay with the original big, huge bid.
Absolutely. Absolutely agree with that. You know, it's just like I said, I've been 3 years on this and I know we started, I mean, the community knows this, we know this is what this park really needs to be about, right? There's reason why it wasn't put in at the beginning, you know, it's infrastructure, it's getting parking, it's getting this stuff for the lake. It was doing all of those things. But we need to get through this part of it. And the reason I mentioned just the flag area, because it's kind of a simple solution that you can do. It's not really about phasing it in. What I mean by that is if there was a way of getting that done without going through a standard bidding process, if you guys have contracts like that, that might be able to be done. I don't know. There are cities that have that. To where we could go ahead and bid the whole thing, just have pulled that out, and you're already moving forward with construction of that.
But we can use options like that, due to it's not federal or state funded.
Yeah.
So, and we would make sure that any funds that we would receive from Fish and Game on sidewalks and all would not be in that part. So
I would definitely be in favor of that, because I feel like that's moving us forward, showing some good faith, especially to the people that have donated or that have been excited about this for several years and seen nothing happen for 2-3 years. Yes.
And I think we're cognizant of the urgency to do the whole project. So if we gotta split it up and do it into 2 or 3 chunks, you know, we come right back with chunk number 2 or chunk number 3 after we get number 1 accomplished. Like, we're not gonna just back burner this.
Oh, exactly.
You know,
And if we do the first thing, let's say it takes a few months, then you have that few month delay that you were talking about.
That buys us
But you're
time.
doing that.
Yes.
The reason I pulled that out is because of the simplicity of it.
Yeah.
We can still alternate bid, so you get multiple prices, right? And you can select what you can afford now, and then you can push some of it later if
Buffet
you want
style.
to, you know. But I think if we can get moving forward on, you know, at least moving a little bit of dirt and putting that front rock area in with the flag, that would be
and the
a
jetties.
good step.
The
And the
jetties would be
jetties,
good
if that's what you need to do.
I'm good with that. I think it sounds like a great
I
idea.
think that's a good idea.
I'm also hopeful that maybe breaking it apart will help entice. Again, I said this last meeting. I've experienced in my personal life where, hey, that's small enough, I can squeeze you in. Mr. Messer, I think you were sharing that with us about some of the road projects that you're working on. This job is small enough where we can squeeze that in, even though we're booking out through the end of the year.
Yeah.
If we break it down, hopefully that will help, at least with the time frame aspect.
Yeah, we talked to at least one contractor that I would think would come in under what you got by quite a bit, and their big thing was the time frame, the length of time.
Yeah.
And we specifically asked, if we bid it again with more time, will you be in? And they're like, yeah, we'll bid. And we had to talk to them on another job about the same thing.
You gotta hold them to that.
Yep, we do what we can, but you know. We're kind of, you know, we're trying to find others that we can connect to send to, but it's tough out there right now.
Yep, it
Is
is.
there one particular aspect about this project that, like, is it I mean, I know you talked about the granite, but like, it's the concrete or all of it?
Just everything.
I would call this project very straightforward and fairly simple for a contractor.
I think it's just the nature of construction right now.
Yep, that's what it is.
Bid high and figure it out. It's their strategy.
Any other questions or comments? If not, and unless I heard differently from everyone, I feel like we're in a pretty much good consensus with moving forward with the flag thing and the jetties, and then, you know, pushing a brief pause or moving forward with the process.
Yes, sir. As well as, we will go out and
Rebid the others.
we'll get our hat off and ask for more donations as well.
Yep.
We'll work on that, and get that going also.
Sounds good. All right. Any other questions, comments? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Have a good evening.
All right, with that was the last item on the agenda. Next, we'll move on to announcements and reports. The only announcements I really have is I'm just excited to be filling some positions that we've been anticipating and been hopeful for many months now. So with the finance director, with the city administrator, and then also with the parks board. So with all those different things, it's just exciting for me, and I think for all the governing body, to see positions, important positions getting filled that will make a big impact on the community moving forward. So with that, that's all I have. Mrs. Roth.
Brian, sorry, I took your water.
It was an extra.
Excuse me, Mr. Peel. I wanted to say congratulations, they're not here anymore, but maybe if Chief and Captain could pass on the congratulations, that was a really neat story, and thank you for sharing, and that's awesome that we've got folks on staff that, like Officer Whip and Officer Schaefer, so thank you to them. I don't really have anything outside of that.
All right, Mr. Peel.
Couple of things. I wanted to say, I think somebody hit him with it, but thanks to Pat for his interim service in the CA position. I know it's a job that has caused you a lot of anxiety and is not a difficult, or is not an easy job. Has a lot of difficulty.
Opposite.
Said that completely wrong. But we're very thankful. I think you've done a tremendous job in the time that you've been in that position. I know that you've helped this governing body a great deal. I know that you care about Spring Hill deeply, deeply, and more than most people in the community know. So I feel like you've done a great job for us. Also, kind of along the same line, I've noticed that the last two meetings we've had some constructive disagreement, which I think is really good for a board like this or a governing body, that we can discuss different things, debate different things, have different opinions on things, and come together and make a decision, and everything still functions the way it's supposed to. I think that's incredibly valuable, and I think that is a characteristic of this board that we should be very proud of. My last thing is that we talked about the mill levy cap quite a bit last meeting, and there was some information posted over the weekend on a website called the Sentinel that claims that we are going to be raising our taxes by 20% on the fire and no fire districts. And I just wanted to make sure, or I wanted to say that the Sentinel is not a media organization. It's not a newspaper. It's an organization that's owned and operated by the Kansas Policy Institute. And they put out information that fits the agenda that they want to promote. And I think the data that they put out is incredibly misleading, and it's purposely misleading. So I want our citizens to know that if you have questions about the mill levy or the process or what we're doing, please come and talk to us, or please come and talk to our staff. Because if you read these types of things and you believe it for what it says right there, it is not correct. So I think it's important when things like this come out that we try and address it, we try and talk about it. I'm happy to talk with anybody about the mill levy and what my thoughts are and what I will be, pushing for this governing body to do in the budgeting process. And it's really difficult to get correct information out there when things like this float around. So be very mindful of where you get your information if you're a member of the public.
Check your sources.
Yeah. Mr. Young.
No report.
Mrs. North. No report. Mr. Burton.
Are you going to tell us about your flare that you've been wearing all night? You haven't even mentioned that.
They're going to skin me if I don't. They even wrote it out for me what I'm supposed to say. So
Stick to the
perfect.
script.
First, I did get some comments on that. I'd like to address that mill levy. The mayor and I have been working with the fire department for quite some time. And mill levy wise is actually going to go down a lot. So it is, and mill levy wise, and the chief's going to skin me for saying this, but mill levy wise for the non-fire district appears to go down quite a bit as well. So, we're going through the numbers. I was not able to make the last meeting, but I think we have a final resolution, meeting coming up on that. So, just wanted to bring that up. I do want to say that we are having more developers reaching out and just saying, hey, what can we do with the city? Roush Coleman is one of them, and they're going to continue to support the city and do construction here as well. We're working on several developments and all with them. We'll get all that, but I have to make this announcement since I'm wearing this. Well, I was supposed to have some other stuff, but, so, this luau has not been held since 2019 due to COVID and all that. It's this Saturday, July 30th, from 6 to 9. The Aquatic Center will be closing early. It will be closing at 5 o'clock. The reason for that is to prepare for the event. I'm reading this, okay? It's $5 to get in. You get one of these. All right. There's going to be drawings for games and all. Hot dogs and hamburgers, sides will be there. They'll be served by city employees. It really is a good time for everyone. There's raffle prizes for kids and adults. To give you an idea, there's a Amazon Echo Dot, a Fire Stick, Bluetooth speakers, there's splash pads, there's pool towels. There's a lot of stuff for all ages. If you want a grass skirt, I think you're gonna have to provide your own, but that's welcome. And well, I think, the rec commission is gonna donate a couple of free sporting registrations, and the aquatic center, there'll be a few free family passes for the 23 season will be given away also. So hope everyone comes. The first 300 get 350. Get one of these, maybe 351. I'll give mine back. But that's really about it. I just want to thank you guys for your support in this time this 4-month time I was supposed to do this.
Yeah. Just a little
3-year anniversary.
Just a little longer than you expected.
Just a little longer, and I want to thank the staff for supporting. I'm not. I have a way, and that's the way. My staff's very used to it, and walking outside that door and then having to accommodate a larger and everyone. It was a challenge for me, but I do appreciate everything. I hope that I'll be working with Lane on everything and fill him in 100% of the good and the bad. And we are going to be working towards all of the, I don't want to say problems, leftover stuff that we need to get corrected. So, and staff is working hard on water and things of that nature. So, other than that, thank you all again. I appreciate it. And I do look forward to Lane. So.
With that, Mr. Massey, do you have anything you want to add? If not, I don't. All right. Welcome once again. Mr. Dunley.
To the joy of the masses, no comment.
Chief Henson.
Lovingly clapping.
Thank you.
It died.
No, I just want to say that it's been a tough week for our profession. We did bury one of our brothers on Wednesday. And one of the things I wanted to make sure that I passed along is that we here in Spring Hill and the police department really appreciate you guys, the support that you give us, that the community gives us, the support, the interactions that we have with our community. We really do appreciate it. We appreciate the fact that you staff and equip our officers with the necessary equipment so that we maybe provide the public safety aspect of the city to our residents in a professional way. And so I just wanted to I've said this before, that I really do appreciate everybody's support and the communities. And I just thought that this week, in light of what took place, that I would thank you again for that. The other thing I want to do on a more of a lighter note is to announce that we're doing National Night Out on Tuesday, August 7th. I've been closely watching the temperatures, and unfortunately, it keeps going up. So it looks like it's going to be very warm, 97 degrees. But we have 6 neighborhoods that are participating. Wolf Creek is going to be participating. We're excited to come visit. Sweetwater, Black Hawk, Dayton Creek, and Old Town on both sides of Webster. We have an event on the east side and on the west side. So we're going to be really busy going around to all of them and visiting, and we're super excited about the increase. We only had 2 the last 2 years, so going to 6 is really exciting, and we really do appreciate the support. So other than that, thank you.
I just want to speak just from my own personal opinion. I believe the entire governing body, we greatly appreciate law enforcement, and we're blessed to have a great force, and we're thankful every day that you guys are protecting and serving, and we definitely don't take it for granted.
Yeah, on a lighter note, I wish I'd have thought of that, saying that at budget time. So, no, we do appreciate everybody with the police department.
Madam Clerk.
This is a night for thanks. But I would like to thank the governing body for the 2 positions that were brought to you this evening. Will give an opportunity for some staff to move up, and it takes really good staff, and our staff is incredible. We have they're invaluable, and it's good that we'll be able to have them in those positions. And then, speaking of the police department, we had some internal training this week. It was for Alice training that Detective Weitzel put on. But I'm sure Chief Henson was, had to make this happen with everybody's schedule. So it was a great training for the active shooter, unfortunately, that we have to train for nowadays. But it is starting the conversation of our employees to know what to do and how to act. And the conversation is not over. But I really deeply appreciate that training for staff and to try and do what's best. And we know that our police department will be there if we are needed and ever that situation would come, if harm comes to us. We know that they will be here for us. And that's really it. But I do appreciate that, Chief. And I think it's that the life-saving, I did not know that, and that's so cool. Incredible senses that they have to have in those type events is just amazing, and that's incredible. So that's awesome. So thank you very much.
Mrs. Dunn.
Thank you. I should probably follow in the footsteps of the city attorney and say no comment, but I got the microphone now. I just want to say what I feel so blessed to be with the city of Spring Hill and how wonderful everyone's been to me and patient and accommodating, and what a great team there is here. I'm really excited with the finance team that's been built that I get to inherit. And just look forward to working with everybody. I am working really hard on the budget. Luann has been helping me with that, and I hope pretty soon you're going to see some product coming from that you will be pleased with. I usually get to tell stories about balancing wants and needs in a budget, but you have a staff here that there aren't a lot of wants, it's mostly needs, and that makes it tougher to do. But it also makes you feel good when you put a product together where they can accomplish the things that they need to. So that's what we're working on. I thank you for your time and serving the community.
Thank you. Mrs. Jones.
No announcements.
Mr. Messer.
We had talked last week about Lincoln Street, and in the next meeting, I'll be bringing some proposals for some plans for doing phase 2 and 3.
Right.
We're working on some water meter replacement, I'll be bringing that at the next meeting, what our needs are there. Aquatic Center is winding down. Thank you for the member of the park board. We ended up canceling the meeting, I guess, after several attempts to reschedule, could not get everybody together. And just busy. We'll keep plugging away at it. Thank you.
Could you give us a little bit of update on phase 1 on Lincoln Street?
Okay, phase 1, and we've got the contracts in place, and that's that 110 feet that the city personnel took out and didn't get a chance to, we chose to go contract to finish it up. At the same time, we've got our crews in there addressing the major potholes. We did find a product that dries out in 30 minutes, and we struggled last week because at 100 degrees, 30 minutes isn't 30 minutes. You can't even get it out of the bucket. But we did do a lot of the patches. Phase 2 is going to be from that patch that everyone knows about all the way to the intersection, and the radius is on the intersection. And then the other phase will be the south or north end, I'm turning around, all the way to the end, where a lot of the patches are. We're going to come with some proposals and maybe figure out how to partner with the people down on the businesses to also do their drive entrances, since normally we stop at the street edge. So we're going to accommodate 20 feet in there or something to make it all clean. But I don't have a start date yet, but it's we've got everything done to get that started.
On phase 1?
Pardon?
On phase 1 or on the
Phase 1, and then we'll bring 2 and 3 next week and see how you want to, or next meeting, see how you want to break it out and pay for it, and do 1 year, or do 2 1 year, or whatever. So we'll be looking at that. We're also, I have not heard from Vance Brothers, but we're going to be going down 223rd Sweetwater. We're hoping to go down Victory as well, and Maple Ridge with that chip seal. So we're moving forward on that as well. It's ready to go.
We will go down Victory.
Pardon?
We will go down Victory.
Yeah, we just got to get the paperwork on it, but we are going to go Victory as well.
And we got that big chunk of Victory that was in really bad condition.
Yeah,
it's been upgraded significantly in the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, we went in there in the winter when we could not get hot mix, and we ground it out and put mill in there, which helped. But now we went back in there and put hot mix in and leveled it out. Now we're talking about a chip seal. We also crack sealed that road.
Yep.
We're also talking about in the next few weeks of getting in there and doing some of the potholes that are left with hot mix. And then the chip seal is going to go over the whole thing.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Cool.
So it's moving forward pretty good.
Yep, I think that'll make everyone everywhere happy, because at some point, if you live in Spring Hill, you end up driving down Victory. So, yeah. All right. With that, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll concede. Second.
I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0-0. Have a good night, everybody.